Hey everyone, and hope you're doing well. So, as we went through the last video, we discussed a little bit about making a symmetrical object and doing the symmetry, like unwrapping one side of a model, and you can texture it and it would replicate on the other side on a mirrored reference. That's one way of doing symmetrical texturing. Then we also discussed how to do asymmetrical, which was referencing the object, and then before you attach the object, moving one UV map over and then attaching, and then just starting to stitch them together using the stitch tool. So what we're going to talk about today is, I know that we did a little bit of seaming before, but I want you guys to get used to seam modifications. So we're going to we're going to use a complicated model, something that looks like this. In fact, you might even go one step further, and I might look through my model library, see if we can find something something organic to look at. Let's load up this Boodle model here. This Boodle is a little shark object. I will send this all to you as well. It should be, oh, it's way off. Let me just align it here in our world. Okay, so there. I'll delete the base, and there we go. We get a cute little creature. I'll just send you the low poly version like this. And we're going to unwrap something like this, something organic and shapen. So this is also symmetrical. You can see it has turbo smooth on it, and there is a mesh smooth low poly version of this. This one was modeled by me. It's just a pet little cat shark type thing. So what this Boodle is an organic mesh that we need to unwrap and stitch together because we don't want a seam line down the middle of the model. So what we do is we go to the top of this model, and basically I'm just going to try and line it up as best as possible to the grid in 3D Studio Max, and I'm just going to delete half of it. So we leave Turbo Smooth off because if you have the Unwrap modifier just on top of Editable Mesh and before Turbo Smooth, what happens is, and you can see an example here, I'll put the Unwrap modifier and it's in the middle of the stack. So it's actually, let's see, our model's unwrapped already. I already unwrapped this previously in a really bad way. Then if I put Turbo Smooth on, you'll see if I add the Unwrap modifier again, let's say another Unwrap on top of this, you'll see this is actually the high poly unwrap. So if you unwrap the low poly and then put another unwrap modifier on top of Turbo Smooth, you'll actually see the high polygon model unwrap rather than the low poly. And you can do adjustments via there. Or you can just do the low poly and just add Turbo Smooth and everything else later, which we'll do. So we have half the Boodle here. Make sure that's nice and half. Yep, that's exactly half. So my next step is I'm going to add my unwrap UVW modifier and unwrap this model. Now it's organic, so I kind of want as many pieces as possible to be like tightly together. So I'm just going to reset this UV. I'm just going to lay it all flat. So I'm going to make a planar map, just like that. So you'll notice if I just go to Tools, Relax, what's going to happen is, yeah, some of it relaxed just fine, but there are parts of the body that can't relax like that, like the legs and the ears, parts that stick out. So we need to start removing them. So we need to do what we did with our seam lines. We need to go to seams. So I'm going to go to Peel. I'm going to go to Unwrap UVW Edge Mode, and now I'm going to make my seams. So for parts I want to disconnect. So I usually go with parts. I'll change the color of this mesh so you can see it a little bit better. Let me just make a very bright blue here. There you go. You can see it a lot better. So I'm just going to grab parts that stick out, and I'm going to cut the seams off those. Now I'm going to be really close, so let's cut that. That'll be one seam. The ear will be another seam. So I'm just going to cut off pretty much all this ear right here. You're not going to have to work on this model, but I will ask you to do your human model. So you'll see like I'm cutting parts like this off. Any parts that kind of stick out, I'm kind of thinking like sleeves, like arms, legs, that kind of thing. I want to cut them out as much as possible. So let's just keep cutting the unwrap. This one actually be, I'd say, closer. Yeah, probably down here will be fine. I will send you this model as well. If you want to unwrap this and make a cute cartoony thing, you can as well. And I'm going to unwrap this part here, which sticks out. and this little nub here. I'm going to leave the tail. I'm going to leave these because they're going to mirror to the other side and reflect. So I think that they'll be just fine, reflecting to the other side. If I were to cut them out like this, it would have to be a big mess cutting out the rest. If I just leave it like this, they're all cut out and these will merge evenly. So I just cut out any parts that are really, really sticking out, the ear, the back shark fin here, the little shark nub here, and these legs here. And what I'm going to also do is I'm going to cut the bottoms of the feet off. I'm just going to go around, cut the bottom of the foot off. And remember that as a golden rule, the feet are a little more complicated. There's a little overlap, but I think I got it. There you go. I mean, I could also just go to the left view here, hold Control, grab all this, and hold Alt and grab all that. See, and then it's just making sure that I grab every single edge, but also we want to get rid of all the inner edges here. I don't need these, so I'll just grab those. Like that, and like that. Oops. And hopefully this will grab everything. It looks like I grabbed everything I needed. Yep. And don't forget that we go to seams and we convert selection to seams, which will turn them blue. And you can turn off map seams so you can see nothing but blue lines in our model. I know right now it might appear all white to you, but let me just change the color again the second time. Maybe really dark. Yeah, see, now you can see the blue lines around the model. Like that. So now those are the seam lines because of the UV editor. We can see that they're all cut out here. And I'm going to go to quick peel. Quick peel. So you can see I am running into issues in certain spots, so I'm going to actually check out what they are. So the reason I ran into an issue, I'll just undo, is because don't forget, remember, think about it like you have to lay it flat down on a table, right? We lay this 3D object down onto a 2D object. So we cut a cylinder shape out here, but you can't lay a cylinder flat on a table. You have to lay a flat paper that you cut. So we need to create a seam line down the side of the cylinder. See right here? So then when we cut it, it becomes flat. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, I forgot to grab these. And then I'll grab this down here. Always try and find a seam line that's kind of hidden from the camera, so I'm focusing on the inner leg being hidden from the camera. Like that. And it should hopefully peel out a little bit better. The same thing applies to this seam here. Grab this. And I'll cut this seam all across. I'll cut the seam like here. Actually, I could just probably just cut this line here. That'll be fine. Cut the seam there. And then for here, this one will be fine on its own. And for this one, I'll just cut a seam here and see how that works. And then we're going to do a quick peel. That worked out a lot better. Now I'm still seeing some issues here, but I think I might be able to relax a couple of these. There's no overlap, it's just like a weird structure. See, even my toes came out okay. These came out okay. The body came out okay. So my next step, now that my body is separated in all these different categories, I'm going to go check my checker pattern. Checker pattern. Checker pattern looks pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is rescale all elements. And I want to do some relaxing. I'm going to relax all the elements. So there's one thing I am noticing that I'm not a fan of is how this body was arranged. So you see this body here? There's a little bit of a little overlap here, and I think what's occurring is that there might be some issues. So what I'm doing instead is I'm using a flat planar, and I'll just relax it from the side like this. So don't forget, you have full control of these texture maps. Just because a projection map didn't, like your peel and seams didn't work out 100% accurately for you or the way you like it, you can always go in and modify it like this until it's the way I want it to be. So if you're unhappy with some other stuff, you can always feel free to arrange all that. And all these seem to be pretty good. There is a little bit of issue with the ears, so there might need to be some tweaking here. I might, in fact, just cut this ear in half and re-seam it together. So if I grab one side of the ear, which I will say is probably this side of the ear, it's because of this overlap here. So if I grab these polygons here and detach them like so, and now I try to relax. Let's see if I can. Tools detach, relax. Tools detach, relax. And like with texturing, it's all about small adjustments, making sure that everything kind of looks okay. And so far, I'd say that everything kind of looks okay here. I just rescale them all, and I go to rescale and rotate and arrange elements, and I pack normalize. So we have one full side of our model completely unwrapped and ready for texturing. Bottom paws look good, tails look good, everything's square-like, everything's scaled right. This is the ear tip. Yep. All right, so everything looks good. So now that we unwrapped one side of the model, and this does take practice, I don't expect you to get it done as fast as I can, but pretty much what you got to think about is that if something is protruding from your model, you want to cut it off in seams, and then we can always re-weld it later if we have the space. If not, just creating as little seams as possible will work best for your model when it comes to unwrapping. So that's all you have to really remember as you do this. So now that we have this done and everything looks good, everything's unwrapped, we want to collapse this. So collapse all. Grab this, collapse all. That means my unwrap information is saved as a default state inside of this mesh, and I can go to Tools, Mirror, No Clone, and move it to Copy. Now I have a copy of this model. Now we have two copies of this Boodle model. I go to the unwrap of the new copy I just made, open the UV editor, and I'm going to move everything off to the side. Because once I attach everything together, the left-hand side of the Boodle will be in here, and the right-hand side will be here, and then we can focus on welding anything we want together. I go to Collapse All, I collapse everything, so all the unwrap information is hidden away, and I'm just going to go to the top view and weld everything right down the middle. So I selected all the vertices down the middle of my model. I'm going to go to my weld, and I'm going to convert this to an edit. Poly first. I go to my middle vertex. My middle vertexes are already selected from before, and I'm going to increase my weld parameter here a little bit. And everything is now welded together. So we have one fine welded model, and now I can add the unwrap UV modifier to it. And what I should see is green seam lines pretty much all the way down the middle of my model, and that's because these green seam lines are being created because my model is actually separated directly in half, right? So we want to try and remove those green seam lines, and the way to do that is we start by welding the bodies together first. So I'm going to grab this body here, and I'm going to grab this body here. Now you want to choose what side of the body is mostly visible to the user and try and hide that seam line the most. So to hide that seam line at the very most, we're pretty much going to hide the top parts, which, observing the tail direction and using the tool flip vertical, I find that both, oops, that's the bottom of the tail there. I'm using tools flip vertical. Both bodies are right here, and I can tell just by clicking these vertexes, these polygons here. The other one lights up in blue. that these are the polygons that are going to attach to each other. So I grab all these, and I can either go to, oh yes, so this is going to introduce a small problem. Okay, so I'm going to do this. So what we want to do is we want to try and remove all the polygons except for the ones that actually need to be selected. So I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to remove polygons that need to be selected, other than the main ones that need to stitch together. So I go around like this, okay? And I'm probably going to start stitching from here. And like that. And I need to remove these ones here. And pretty much until you don't see any blue lines anymore, you can kind of get this shape going on. And then I'm going to go to, let's go to this one first. Stitch to average. And you can see it built up the average between these stitch marks here. And we have a fairly decent stitch going on. Now, if you need to replicate that, just keep going stitch to average on the rest of the model. You can do one by one until you get a fairly accurate representation of your model. I think this will work out well for now. So then I'm going to go to Tools, Relax. Hopefully, should get us something like this. Now, you're going to notice that there might be even some overlap that occurs because of this. So the main body doesn't look too bad, but it's relaxing a little too much. Just change the amount of stretchiness or anything like that to how you see fit. Or if you don't want any overlap at all in this model, I can actually just leave it like this and just do my small adjustments here. In fact, for this one, I'd even probably just remove it completely from our model just to make it easier on the entire process. I will just detach this, relax it on its own off the model like that. Detach. So what I'm doing is I'm just detaching these little horns right here and just making sure that there's no overlap. I just detach them and I relax. And I'm going to have to weld this one back on here, and I can go to vertex mode, tools, target, weld, left click and drag on one vertex until I see the other blue one light up and match. I match them together, and then I go back to polygon and relax tool like that. So everything is relaxed like that. And now there's no overlap here. There's no overlap here. Everything's good to go. I can grab whatever polygons I want and relax them. I can relax everything if I choose to. But like I said, be warned that sometimes overlapping does happen. You see here in this part of the model, there is some overlapping. So what you could do is just grab this part and just relax some different section. Let's say the bottom part alone, like this. Until there's no overlap that happens here. We can change the amount too, of course. You can see by changing the amount to 1, we get a much better look to the tail. It's much more flat. And now I can just do a small bit of rotation. I should even detach this polygon as well. Maybe that'll help out. So if I go to detach this one, and then I relax the tail, it looks much better now. And there is still a slight overlap, but I can just very, very slightly adjust this, and no overlap, and we have like one solid mesh. And this, as if we go back to our model, we can see the seam line is disappearing from the back of our model, and that's kind of where we want it to disappear from as much as possible. The front of the face, you can actually just do an entire new face, or segment that off how you feel. And you just go step by step through all of this, and use the relax tool. Make sure nothing overlaps. Try and do some adjustments. See, just a slight adjustment like that, just to make sure that edges don't overlap each other. This works, this works, this works. And things like this. We got our fins here, so I grab the fin on this side. And if you're having trouble seeing, like I said, select by, turn off, ignore back facing, and just use the 3D view to kind of figure out where everything is. And I can drag these off like that. And I can just select this model, figure out where they both go. And I can just tools. Oops, grab this. Grab this part here. Oh, sorry, I'll grab the entire thing. I'll flip it like that. That. Stitch average. See, that's already welded together. I can relax them like that. And I can finish welding that off right here. Or I can do it to the opposite side. Remember, you always want to try and get the side that's most visual to the person. So we probably want to get, oops, grab this, rotate this. So we probably want to get this side, and then we can stitch the average there. And you can see that the stitching line disappears here. And we can even stitch this one too as well. I go to stitch custom and see right to the tip right there. And you can do a little vertex modifying if you need to, like such. And we have the nice fin in the back there that we're able to play around with, and we can go to polygon relax to make sure it's very accurate and perfect. And you go step by step through this and unwrap this model completely. Now, like I said before, you don't have to unwrap this model, but this is how exactly you would go step by step to unwrap a model. You would unpack one side of the model and take the other and mirror it to the other side. You would unwrap and move the other side over so that there's two different sides. When you attach them together, the one side would be here, the one side would be over here. Now, a way to do that actually might help you out is if you look in the toolbar here, you can see show multi-tile. What show multi-tile does is it shows wherever you drag other vertexes and polygons, it makes new tiles for them. You can see they're disappearing as I move them. So it's just kind of showing you how it would look if you had multiple texture maps, how big they are in various other settings. You can see I can scale it and see. So this is like 3 different texture maps. And I can always change the size of them, relax them. And at this moment, you can always do this too. You can always go pack normalize with a rotate and rescale. See how everything looks together so far, and then go step by step to weld everything together. It's kind of like the way I like to do it. I like looking at the ears and going, okay, those ears look good, and then just unpacking everything else. Or if you feel like your model already looks good and you're just going to texture like this, you feel free to do it as well. As long as your texture comes out well, there's nothing wrong with a texture looking like this. But the cleaner a texture is that somebody can understand what they're working in, the better. So I could understand easily that this is the main body, but I'd have trouble understanding what these parts are. I would actually just try and make them look as best as possible and as clean as possible, what they're supposed to actually look like. But now we have our unwrap. Everything's unwrapped and it's symmetrical here, but we're able to draw like different shapes on both sides, which is great. And then you can just play around with that. So I mean, that's kind of what we're hoping for. Unwrapping is a little difficult, but really if you understand the core concepts that I taught last week and just keep playing around with them over and over again, start unwrapping everything you build, you're going to find it's a much easier process as you keep practicing. So my suggestion is to always keep practicing on inorganic objects, things like the Coke can project, and organic objects like your human characters. This Boodle, I'll send it to you with everything else. So if you want to try something cute and cuddly, you can try this guy. And just take it slow and steady and make sure that the less overlaps that you have in the UV map, the better. And then once you start texturing and exporting this out, you can start doing that. And I'm actually going to continue on and show you the exporting process. We go to Tools, we go to Render UV Template, and then we choose the size of our texture map. Now this one's 1024. I can increase that. Try, like I said before, try and go by the power of 2, 1024, 2048. But if you can't do that, that's fine too. Don't stress out. Just go render UV template, and now we have something to draw on top of. So I render this out and I save it wherever I need to, and I'm going to call this Boodle. I'm going to save it as a PNG, and I'm going to turn off alpha channel so I get the nice black background. I'm going to open Paint. So because we made our model, because the model is completely symmetrical, but we changed the texture to be more asymmetrical. Oops, sorry about that. We're able to do a lot of modification to this texture and have different shapes on different sides of the model. Now, a suggestion for when you're modeling and taking this into Photoshop, create a new layer in Photoshop or whatever program you use and colorize one part of your model so that you know specifically what part of the model it is. So you see, because we took this body and this is half a body here, this is another half a body, we can change the style of how this body looks easily on both sides. And all we had to do was just unwrap one side of the body and mirror it and then attach them together. So I'm just going to do this. One side of the body is a straight line, one side of the body is a straight line, and one's checkered. And I'm going to collapse all on my 3D model to make sure its UV is in the default state. So that means the default model has UV information in it. And I'm going to load up my boodle image and put it on this model. Don't forget to right click assign material to selection, or click here assign material to selection, and then right click show shade material and viewport. And now you can see that my boodle is nicely unwrapped. Even though it's not perfect unwrapped, it's still nicely unwrapped. And one side has a line down it, and one side has the checker pattern on it. Like that. If you take it into another program, you can even paint on the texture. Using a program like Mudbox, you can actually use a Cintiq and draw on top of your characters, or you can even use a mouse. There is a free program available with a 30-day trial. I definitely recommend it. It is called 3D Coat. Let me try and access it. 3D Coat right there. 3D Coat DX. This has a free 30-day trial, and I definitely recommend it. It does sculpting, texture painting, and everything you can imagine. And it has a nice bunch of tools for you to use that I just highly recommend. It takes OBJ files. You see, I'm using the free trial right now just to test it out. I have 20 days left. I'm going to export this model as an OBJ. Now, to export this model file, I can click File right here, the little max icon, Export, and Export Selected. So I have this selected, so I'm going to Export Selected. I'm going to export it as an OBJ file format. OBJ file format. I'm going to call this Boodle. I'm going to change my preset to none, so it's just there's no different preset settings, and it's going to export the model and give you like a done box. Once you're done, you can load up your program, whatever it is you want to texture paint in, whether it be Mudbox, which you have a free trial of Mudbox if you go on the Autodesk website, or ask me and I'll let you know about it. Or you can just download 3D Coat, which is absolutely free, and it works on really low-end computers as well, so you might have fun with this. And it does everything ZBrush does and Mudbox does as well, so no stressing about that. If you go Paint UV Map to Mesh, because we already unwrapped our model, you can just click that, and then click the little folder to open a file. They even have test files if you'd like to try something else. I'm going to open file, and I'm going to find the boodle on the desktop that I exported. And you can see it's going to do a whole bunch of settings. What's your normal map software presets? 3D Studio Max. Do you want to do anything else to the model? No, that's okay. Texture, width, and height, 1024 or something else? No, 1024 is fine. Okay, okay. And you can see it actually loaded all our texture information as well already in it. And now we can actually create a new layer. And I know it's a little difficult to open up a new program like this, but it's pretty much like Photoshop and 3D Max in one little tool case. We're in paint mode. You can see it right here. You can choose your different brushes here. Or you can choose different brushes here. Brush options, and these are the alpha brushes, and it comes with different other types of brushes as well. You can create a new layer here, and you can just choose colors and a paintbrush here and start painting on top of your model. And you can even paint normal maps. You can see, as I'm painting, it's actually painting a glossy map, a normal map, and everything else at the same time. This is a really great program for doing like weird, funky detail to your model. Crazy, right? So if you learn how to use a different program like this, and this one's absolutely free, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to turn off the depth and all that stuff in the layer you're working on, you can see it has depth opacity, regular opacity, roughness opacity, and metal opacity. If you want to have a little fun while trying this out, I would suggest playing around with something called presets. Not presets, sorry. What was I looking at? Smart materials here. Smart materials are really cool because you can actually just click on one of these materials. It generates an auto curvature, and it also generates an automatic ambient occlusion on your model. I'm just going to turn off my boodle layer, the boodle texture right now. And I'm going to load, this has a smart material preview window, and watch what happens when I open this window up. It actually previews what your model will look like when you start painting this new texture on top of it. And just by drawing on top of it, I'm painting this model. And now it's really hard with the actual, I'm using my mouse right now, but I'm going to change my brush size here, radius. .22. Yeah, maybe I should change it more like 5. There you go. And you can see I'm playing around with all types of maps. Now you can turn off the depth opacity, 0, and I can hide this for a second. So it's not, this one won't, if you turn off depth opacity, it's not going to actually bump out your model. It's just going to add the texture detail. Like smart material. So you can see I'm just going around with smart material. And you can always export this smart material as well to something like 3D Studio Max. So it will actually render in 3D Studio Max if you have a nice light setup like this. This is why I recommend a program like 3D Coat, because you can actually just take a model like this and play around with it, and you can get like instantly like decent looking results. And it's just like a little bit of fun, right? You can see like you got that nice rustic boodle thing going on. And you can also open up the smart material preview window and see how it would look with different material types as well. You can also subdivide the model if you want. You see, you can go to, let me see, symmetry, textures, view. I'll have to go to my sculpt menu. Oh, I can't see the model no more. Tweak menu. Oh boy, I totally forgot how to subdivide. This stuff happens all the time. See, it has symmetrical information. A program like this is really cool, and even I'm just learning how to use this right now, but I definitely suggest downloading 3D Coat and giving it a whirl, because you can have fun just like repainting stuff and texturing stuff, and it's just a little bit of fun, you know. There you go, subdivide. Retopo. Subdivide. And maybe I need to select it. Transform scale, symmetry unwrap, source selected, scale transform. Brush, but moves. Okay. Under the tweak. Yeah, it's okay. Like, so, yeah, so if you want to just play around with textures and stuff like that, just feel free to try and do something in a program like this. You get better results if your model has a lot more higher polygons, but don't be afraid to just check out what your low polygon model would look like. You can see there's digital camo right there. There's rust, that looks cool. There's plastics. You know, it simulates a whole bunch of cool stuff like glass chrome. All that stuff has HDR built in, and it's absolutely free. I'm not paid to advertise this program. I just really, really like this program. And don't forget, we have depth opacity too, and you can turn off things like roughness opacity, 0, and you can see the roughness is gone. So it actually shows you as well, you get to learn a little bit about how the different texturing works. So I definitely recommend trying to download 3D Coat as a quick way to just paint on top of your models, and just try and do a couple tutorials and learn that. But at the same time, you can just go into something like Microsoft Paint, paint on top of your textures, download textures, and put them on top. So for instance, I'm going to download a rust texture from Google really quick. And you can see in just 1 second, I will get it. Copy, paste, I got my rust texture here. And if I just drag this over a part of the model that I like, and I save over it, it automatically goes into 3D Studio Max as well and does that. So you're able to use textures from online. You can do whatever. I definitely recommend a program like Photoshop, and I definitely recommend 3D Coat. It's like it's become one of my favorite high resolution texturing programs. And it's the cheapest. It's only $100 if you want to buy a trial, like a small version of it. And the Elite kit is $250, I think. So it's a pretty good program. Like I said, not endorsed. I just love it and I recommend it to go along with 3D Studio Max. Or you can use Mudbox, which is absolutely free. Your student trial will get you a free copy of Mudbox. You can register for any student account or even just a free 30-day trial. Try out Mudbox. Mudbox works kind of the same. It just doesn't have the pretty HDR renders, which is that background wallpaper that this has, and it creates the fake lights. So yeah, just take a look at it and just kind of have fun with it, you know? Yeah. So really what you should take from this lesson today is that unwrapping models is difficult. It takes time. But doing clean unwraps means that you can texture a model really well, and you can render it with great results and actually get some good textures and nice designs for your stuff, so that when we render your portfolio stuff, it looks really good. But for now, focus on learning your unwraps. Your unwraps are most important. Then, when you have a decent unwrap, take it into Photoshop, take it into a program, do your can or your bottle first, so that you learn how to do symmetrical texturing and asymmetrical texturing. Just try it out a couple of times and play around, see what you can get. And then maybe later, if you feel more advanced or you feel like you want to just push a little further, download a program like 3D Coat. There's also other programs like Substance Painter and Mudbox and everything else, and they all do texture painting that you can do on a Cintiq or on a computer or on a tablet. They all normally work with those programs, and they're all pretty handy to learn. So that's for those who want to take the lesson one step further. Definitely try and advance your learning in those steps forward. Now, since we're pretty much done unwrapping, it's just a matter of your assignments. So what I'd like to see from your assignments is, the body we were working on last week, either unwrap that body or unwrap this boodle. Unwrap this little guy or unwrap the body you're working on last week. Whatever works best for you. I want those unwrapped, and I'd like it if you can texture at least 2 objects. So if your can or bottle counts for 1 object, or those crates you were working on last week, crates or simple objects, those count. And then either the boodle or the body, I want to see unwrapped and hopefully textured by the end of this week. So your texturing week is mainly you going to do work now. You have to really push hard and get your unwrapping done correctly. You can send me the unwrap a little early if you want me to take a look at it, for sure. I will send you the final video reviews for everything you've done and my suggestions from where you should go by Friday. So what I'd like you to do is let's say by Thursday night, you send me your unwraps, currently their progress. By Sunday night, I want your final unwraps and your textures complete, and then I will give you your final video reviews on by Monday. So Monday night, you'll get your final video reviews, and then I'll get you some more stuff so you can continue your learning, and I'll do my recommendations, and we're just going to go from there. Now, the class may be over on Monday, but that doesn't mean your learning stops. You should be learning all the way through, because in April, May, I know it's a little bit far away, but think about it now, is we need your demo reels ready, right? So you should already be thinking about what you want to present in your demo reel and where you want to work from, okay? So just try and think about that a little bit early as you're working on your unwraps and working on texturing and making sure that your modeling skills are still up to par. Try and think about all those things and where you want to be, let's say by April, May, or even earlier than that. Like how far do you want to push your skills? And you should find that you should be motivated to work at least in one part of the industry, or if you want to work in all the industries, then that's okay too. We just need to find a place where we can put your skills together so we can make a video or a portfolio website for you, which we're going to discuss portfolio websites by this Sunday as well, so that you can have all your content up there and really showcase the best that you can be. So, like I said earlier in this video, unwrap this character or your human character, get that done. Get your Coke can bottle or your Coke can or your bottle. Get that done and unwrapped, at least unwrapped and hopefully textured. Get that all done this week. Those are both the assignments. Those are very important. And I'm going to continue making videos to talk about your portfolios, talk about setting up your website, talk about presentations, and show you a couple of new rendering tricks that are really handy dandy and rendering software that'll show off your work a little bit better. And we'll just go from there. All right, take care, guys. Do your work. I'll have a new video up by Wednesday night, and another video up by let's say Thursday night, and then we'll continue. We'll wait until the reviews are done, and then I'll get all the reviews up by this Monday coming up. So finish your assignments. Most important, if you're still working on the body and adding armor to it or doing whatever you'd like, adding clothing to it, please do it. I will review everything you've done. I know some of the body reviews. I'm going to wait until you unwrap and do a full review of everything, so you have time to tweak those as well. So tweak your body model if you need to. Unwrap and model a Coke can or a Coke bottle, and then try and finish up this boodle or unwrap that body. Okay? So get at it. I believe in all of you. You all got the skills to do this. Make it happen.